Hey Nastya, why aren't you wearing a mask? Katya asked her friend as she entered her office. The two girls had been friends for 5 years and worked together. In fact, they had met at their workplace. Nastya cast her gaze downward and wiped a tear from her cheek. She had been holding back, hesitant to share what was happening in her family, but she could no longer bear the burden alone. My husband cheated on me, she mustered the courage to say. Oh my God, what a despicable person! How could he? Katya exclaimed, outraged. That's exactly what he did. When I found out, he had been with her for 6 months. He kept it all hidden from me. And foolishly, I thought everything was fine between us. Nastya bitterly revealed, her eyes revealing not just sadness, but something else as well. 6 months? Wow, what are you going to do now? Katya inquired. I haven't decided yet. Can you really forgive him for that? Katya questioned, aware of her own strong stance against cheaters after divorcing her first husband for the same reason. Katya, what can I do? We have 2 children. We've been married for 8 years. The boys have just started school. How can I deprive them of a father? Nastya expressed her dilemma. Nastya and her husband, Mikhail, were parents to twins, Pasha and Sasha, who had recently begun 1st grade. Just a couple of months ago, they had celebrated the first school bell ceremony, with Misha standing proudly beside their sons. Everything had seemed perfect even on that day. Now, Nastya realized that while she remained oblivious, another woman had occupied her husband's thoughts. Understanding Katya's aversion towards cheaters, Nastya didn't expect much support from her in this matter. After all, Katya had divorced her first husband for the same reason. But Nastya, the kids aren't the only factor. How do you envision your future together? Do you think he'll leave her? He might lie and see her again, Katya persisted. He won't. I know he won't. Nastya interrupted, her voice filled with certainty. How can you be so sure? Nastya, please just listen to me. Katya pleaded, wanting her friend to reconsider. Before Katya could finish her sentence, Nastya interjected with a shocking revelation. She passed away 3 days ago. Katya's eyes bulged so much that they seemed on the verge of popping out from their sockets. What? I hope that's not, Katya stammered. Nonsense. Of course, I wouldn't do anything to her, although Nastya hesitated. Though what? Nastya, just tell me the truth, Katya demanded. Anyway, the other day Misha went to work and forgot his phone. As I was leaving the house, I remembered our plans for tonight and decided to check if everything was still on. I dialed his number and heard his phone ringing. In a moment of weakness, I picked it up. It felt as though an invisible force was compelling me to do so, Nastya explained. And you gave in. What did you find? Katya's voice trembled. I discovered a series of texts. They had been messaging each other for a long time. They were even dating, and it seems they met at work. I read their messages and couldn't help but cry. I felt so hurt and betrayed. So I decided to text her from his phone, Nastya continued. What did you text her? A frightened Katya inquired. I wished her dead, calling her a filthy bitch, Nastya confessed. Wow, although it's not entirely surprising, Katya trailed off. Something even more surprising happened. When Misha returned from work that day, he was as pale as a sheet. I asked him what was wrong, and he told me that his coworker had died. I started asking questions, and it turns out Elvira had been hit by a car. It happened just half an hour after I sent that message, Nastya explained. And now you think it's your fault? That's ridiculous. It's just a coincidence. It's sad and strange, yes, but it's definitely not your fault, Katya reassured her. I hope so, but there's something deep inside that's troubling me, Nastya confessed. Of course there is. Your husband cheated on you for 6 months. Who wouldn't be bothered by that? And what did you say to him after all this? Katya asked. He discovered the message on his phone by himself. He knew I had found out. He begged me for forgiveness, saying he didn't know how it happened. He promised he wouldn't leave me and the kids, and that he loved us, Nastya revealed. And you believed him? Katya questioned. Katya, it was hard not to believe him. Besides, what would be the point of lying at that stage? Nastya sighed. Well, it seems like you've exhausted all your options, Katya said with a hint of sympathy. Her friend's voice carried a chilling tone, sending a shiver down Nastya's spine. However, amidst the unsettling nature of her words, there might have been a kernel of truth, or perhaps not. Nastya recognized the importance of thinking for herself now, rather than blindly heeding advice. Yet, sharing her burdens provided a semblance of solace. It was becoming increasingly challenging to bear it all alone. I don't think so, but the entire situation gives me an eerie feeling, Nastya confessed. He attended her funeral yesterday. And you allowed him to go? Her friend inquired. What choice did I have? Everyone from their office was present. When he returned, his eyes were vacant. I felt a pang of pity for him. I'm losing my mind, trying to figure out what to do next, but my thoughts are in disarray. Pull yourself together, Katya commanded, drawing near to her friend. Complying with her friend's urging, Nastya rose from her chair, and Katya enveloped her in a tight embrace. This simple act provided a modicum of relief for both of them. They stood that way for a while before making their way to the dining room. In fact, Katya had come precisely for this purpose, to take her friend out for lunch. During the meal, silence prevailed as each woman dwelled on her own thoughts. Nastya found herself grappling with the question of whether she was ready to forgive her husband for his transgression. Deep down, she sensed that Misha still loved her, though that wasn't the sole determining factor. Above all else, she couldn't bear the thought of depriving her sons of their father, whom they adored. After all, they were just boys. How could they be denied a relationship with their own father? Yes, Misha had made a mistake. Yes, it hurt. But was it entirely unexpected? Maybe she cast a spell on him? Nastya wondered aloud, inadvertently voicing her previously unspoken thoughts. The idea had never crossed her mind before, but was it a possibility? They had shared a deep connection, made plans together, and experienced countless moments of joy throughout the years. Nastya had never fathomed that her husband would look at another woman. Nothing of the sort had ever transpired between them. What enchanted him? Katya expressed her surprise. Did I say that out loud? Nastya questioned, caught off guard by her own words. Yes, you did. But you know what? I believe in such things. Do you want to explore it? Katya proposed. Nastya gazed at her friend, her expression filled with fear. What other options do we have? She asked anxiously. Do you remember Aunt Praskovia? Nastya continued. She works on the second floor. I've mentioned her before. She's a skilled fortune teller. We can ask her anything we want. What do you think? A glimmer of hope appeared in Nastya's eyes. She didn't just want to know about the spell. She wanted to know if there was a future for their family. Should she forgive her husband? Or should she gather her things and leave? Or maybe she should give him a piece of her mind? He had quite a mouth on him, didn't he? Come on, Nastya urged her friend, pushing her plate away. She had lost her appetite anyway. Right now? Katya asked, surprised. However, seeing the determination in her friend's eyes, she agreed. The two friends cleared the table and headed to the elevator. They descended to the second floor and made their way to Aunt Praskovia's office. Aunt Praskovia had started working there only 6 months ago. The building housed various companies, each renting office space. Word had quickly spread about Aunt Praskovia, thanks to her ability to make new friends. Nastya was perhaps one of the few who hadn't yet had the chance to interact with her. And now, the time had come for Nastya to uncover the truth. The friends searched for the correct office, wandering around until they finally found it. The doors were closed. Nastya confidently knocked, and a voice from within called out, "Come in." As they entered the office, they noticed it was dimly lit, with closed blinds and the main lights turned off. Only a faint light filtered through the open window, bringing in a breath of fresh air. Aunt Praskovia sat in her chair, leaning back comfortably. She wore a vibrant dress that defied the conventional office style. A colorful kerchief adorned her head, not in a traditional grandmotherly way, but rather in a fashionable manner. She appeared distinctly unconventional. Red lipstick adorned her lips, and she wore bright beads and chunky-heeled shoes. Who had allowed her to come to work dressed like that? Aunt Praskovia, Nastya questioned, studying her appearance. "Just call me Baba Pasha," the woman replied with a smile. She appeared to be around 50 years old. I felt uneasy addressing her as such. "Just kidding, child," exclaimed the fortune teller, observing my discomfort. Auntie Praskovia sounds more fitting. "Hello, I was told that you can read tarot cards. Can you read mine?" I asked. "Do you have any specific questions in mind?" she inquired. "Yes, several. Can you provide me with some guidance?" "Before we proceed, let's turn on the lights, girls," she said, realizing lunchtime was nearing its end. I was taking a short break. Katya switched on the light, and the office became more familiar, losing its previously intimidating ambience. "Please have a seat, dear. Now, tell me what's troubling you," Auntie Praskovia invited. "I thought you were going to tell me that yourself," I expressed my surprise. "I'm not a witch, but a fortune teller. First, tell me about the issue, and then I will lay out the cards." Deciding to withhold certain details, I mentioned my husband's infidelity, but kept silent about the spell. However, I did not hold back about the demise of his paramour. Auntie Praskovia simply shook her head while listening and then proceeded to shuffle her tarot deck. She laid out the cards, studying them thoughtfully. "It wasn't your husband's fault," the fortune teller asserted confidently. "What do you mean?" I inquired. "That woman enchanted him. I can sense it from the cards. It's not your fault that she died. It was destined to happen to her. You had no part in it," she explained. "What about my husband? Will we stay together?" I questioned anxiously. Auntie Praskovia shuffled the cards once more, gazed at me, and spoke mysteriously. "Now, it solely depends on you. You see, only you can break the spell." "How can I do that?" "You must forgive your husband and love him again. Love him with all your heart and soul. It's the only way to rid him of the darkness that has consumed him," she advised. "And if I can't, then he will perish within a year. I'm telling you this as a third-generation fortune teller. I won't deceive you. The choice is yours to determine whether your husband lives or not. Now you know the options before you. Make your decision wisely." Nastya placed a stack of 1,000 rubles on Aunt Praskovia's enigmatic desk, took her friend's hand, and together they exited the office. Katya glanced at Nastya with fear in her eyes. "What are you planning to do?" she asked anxiously. "I don't know yet," Nastya replied. Throughout the day, Nastya pondered her decision, and when she returned home, Misha and the children were already waiting for her. They all pitched in to prepare dinner, with Mikhail taking the lead in the kitchen, while the boys sat at the table, scribbling in their notebooks under their father's watchful eye. Observing this scene, Nastya realized she wasn't willing to deprive her children of their father, nor did she desire Misha's demise. Once the children had gone to bed, Nastya and Misha sat down together to discuss everything that had transpired, leaving no loose ends. Ultimately, they mutually agreed to never speak of the incident again. Nastya promised herself she would find the strength to forgive, while Misha vowed never to betray her trust again. They sealed their promises in their marital bed, and the next morning they woke up refreshed, ready to face life together. Over the course of 6 months, the family's relationships improved. Nastya truly forgave her husband and discovered an even deeper love for him. Her friend Katya witnessed this transformation, and though she didn't approve of Misha's actions, she understood why Nastya made the decision she did. One day, as Katya was riding the elevator, preparing for a business meeting, Aunt Praskovia stepped inside. "Hello there," Katya greeted her. "Hello to you too," Granny Pasha replied. "Do you remember me?" Katya asked. Yes, you came with your friend, the one your husband betrayed, Aunt Praskovia recalled. Yes, by the way, she's incredibly grateful to you. It's evident that you are a talented fortune teller, continuing a tradition that spans 3 generations. You helped her tremendously. Aunt Praskovia beamed and grasped the girl's hand affectionately. I am a 3rd-generation fabricator. Disregard all this nonsense, she confessed. I'm only revealing this because I've been let go once more, and I won't be returning here. What? Katya exclaimed, taken aback. How is that possible? You know about the deception, and Nastya never divulged anything to you. Every other woman entertains the notion of a deception when she discovers her husband's infidelity, and 1 out of 3 would believe it if someone else disclosed it to her. It follows a predictable pattern, like day and night, Aunt Praskovia explained. Then why did you advise her to forgive her husband? Katya asked, puzzled. Why? Why should a husband's foolishness destroy a good family? They have 2 children. Let them live. A woman's love can mend all wounds. If he's not a complete fool, her Misha, he won't continue his affair, or at the very least, he'll learn to conceal it better. Nastya loves him. Let her be with him. Do you have sympathy for him? So he should suffer? How'd I know? He might have suffered. Imagine his wife leaving him and another woman passing away. How could he not drown his sorrows? Perhaps he would have suffered, but everyone is alive and content. You're unbelievable. You can't do that, Katya exclaimed. What did you want? For me to tell your friend that her husband is a scoundrel and cannot be fixed. And then what? She would have been devastated, turned to food or alcohol to drown her sorrow. Either she would have become overweight and undesirable, or she would have spiraled into self-destruction. Do you prefer that outcome? Besides that other woman, the divorcee is already dead. What's the point of leaving her husband? You're toying with people's lives. I'm not gambling, I'm restoring families. My mother did it, and so did my grandmother. But why would you do that? For what? My salary is meager, and this way I can pocket another 10 or 15,000. Is that so terrible? It's just money. Aren't you ashamed? Why should I be ashamed? If your Nastya truly wanted to leave her husband, she wouldn't have sought my help. She needed a justification to stay with him, and I provided one. What harm is there now? No, she and her husband have reconciled. They're doing well. So, was it such a terrible thing I did? Of course it was. It's deceit, isn't it? And why did you tell me? I told you because I got fired. How can I keep silent now? Nastya wanted to preserve his life. That's why she stayed. If she had a choice. She stayed with him because she still loves him, regardless of everything. Do you understand? If she had fallen out of love, she wouldn't have feared death. But she doesn't know that. Can't I tell her? Katya protested. And that's your predicament. Aunt Praskovia replied with a smile. One thing I can assure you is this. If you inform your friend, you will destroy her family. She will anguish once more. If you don't say anything, no one will be at fault. Well, have a good life. The woman bid her farewell and exited the office, leaving Katya standing there in astonishment. Coincidentally, it was Nastya and Misha's wedding anniversary that very day, and Katya had promised to attend their celebration. A small gathering with close friends had been planned, but now Katya hesitated, unsure if she should still go. She worried about saying something that might disrupt the joyful occasion. A couple of hours later, Nastya personally called Katya to remind her about the event. Katyasha, just a friendly reminder. Will you be joining us? Nastya asked. Of course I will, Katya replied, though her enthusiasm was somewhat lacking. When Katya arrived at the party, she beheld a blissfully wedded couple. Misha gazed at Nastya with adoration, and she returned his look with affection and love. Their children played gleefully near the adorned table. Witnessing this idyllic scene, Katia found herself devoid of any inclination to divulge the information she had learned from Aunt Praskovia. After all, everything appeared to be fine between Nastya and Misha. It was best to let things remain that way, and there was no telling what the future might hold anyway.